Right. 3.7 includes a huge number of changes to melee balance, as well as other gameplay systems. Melee combat. The aim of many of the melee combat changes is to further develop and reinvigorate many combat systems for the core Marauder and Duelist archetypes. What about like Raider and shit? Why are they like completely untouched? The overall goal is to create a greater diversity of melee and more exciting gameplay with them from the early game throughout to the late game. The early game melee combat feel. A number of changes have been made to melee which changed the feel of early combat. Most melee skills now have more or less attack speed, shown on the gem as a percentage of base attack speed. This is to both better match their animations and creating a noticeable difference between fast aggressive attacks, good ones, or slow, much deadlier slams, also called bad ones. Many low-level weapons have had their attack speed increased to bring them closer to the fastest speed of their item class. This should be lessening the feeling of a weapon feeling clunkier compared to a lower level equivalent, with more of the speed coming from the weapon class and the skills it can use. Don't worry, those skills will still feel trash. Striking multiple targets. Swings with melee weapons could previously only hit a single target, affecting both default attack and a large number of melee attack skills like our favorite Glacial Hammer, Frostblades, Frenzy, Flicker Strike, and more. We've made changes that means that every swing has a damage cone with a damage pattern that matches the animation. This is really nice. This is really nice though. The standard melee animation has changed, now using one based on the double strike animation. This improves the feeling of the combat flow and while creating a new hit rhythm that will be more consistent across changes. We aim to make much greater animation improvements in 4.0, but this is a step towards a more natural feeling. Do you know it'd be really cool? Like a Dark Souls-like game, but in the PoE world. I'll zoom in a bit so it's easier for people on the VOD to see. Make text bigger? Yeah, I just did. Skills rebalance. We made a pass of damage, attack speed, area of effect, and more to many melee skills. The goal of this change is to make some less powerful choices more competitive with other comparative alternatives. Many attack gems now also have added damage that grows as the gem levels. This is mostly to provide more damage growth to characters while leveling if they haven't found a powerful weapon. Different gems have different relative strength of added damage, so your skill choice may also be determined by how much you want to take advantage of the gem's damage compared to other sources. Oh, nice. That's really good. We made some significant changes to a couple of support gems that affect many melee skills. Ooh. Multi-strike. This support now provides a lower attack speed multiplier, just over half that of the existing support gem. The previous iteration provided far too large an attack speed multiplier for a single gem, causing problems with performance, effects, animation, and balance. The skill now have a damage multiplier, dealing double the damage on the third repeat. Interesting. That's pretty cool. You can now interrupt a multi-strike attack between repeats, letting you avoid a dangerous possibility or end an... Oh, nice. That's gonna feel really weird. Overall, this makes multi-striking attacks much more responsive. Huh. That's pretty good. Melee Splash. As you can now hit multiple targets with a single weapon skill, Melee Splash can now create multiple splash effects each attack. Multiple splash effects each attack. Interesting. The skill now has a larger splash damage penalty, as it can much more effectively destroy groups of enemies if you position your attacks carefully. Are we gonna? Fortify support now provides a more melee damage stat. I wanted this for so long. I think like the past 6 months, I'm like, why does Fortify now have more damage? Instead of an increased melee physical damage stat, though with a lower damage value. Why? It just deserves to be that good. Melee needs all the love it can get. It should now be a more tempting choice for primary melee attacks rather than being relegated to secondary and travel skills, though it won't outclass the damage of the most pure damage supports. Oh my god. Honestly, it should just be like, make this core for melee. Make this what melee gets. That's what it should be. New support gems and skill gems. We're introducing a number of support gems, two of which enhance or support throw attacks, while another support gems and aura seals further enhance the pure physical damage playstyle. We hope these changes will improve the strength of these two methods of building characters. Hey, method. We'll be providing more details on the full list of support gems shortly. Marauder and Duelist Ascendancy classes. We've made major changes to the Chieftain, Berserker, and Slayer. We wanted to give them a stronger identity and better let them achieve their design goals. The Chieftain should be an amazing choice for a fire damage attacker, as it gives a huge amount of life regeneration and should be a competitive choice for a melee totem character. The Berserker should be capable of some of the highest damage numbers in the game, though at a great cost. But at what cost? We've also condensed the recovery tools available to him to make them more efficient and let you spend just a few more points on the damage. Spend a few more points on damage. Just a few more points on damage. He also has a new critical attack. Notable, that rewards building critical strikes in a unique view. The Slayer reinforces his place as taking full advantage of life leech while also being capable of massive damage against unique enemies. He also has powerful area bonuses, as well as a new critical synergy and specialized frenzy and endurance charge mechanic. The Gladiator is receiving a new notable to support the Gladiator themed blood and sand skills, but it isn't receiving any other major changes at this point. The new champion is receiving some minor improvements, and the Juggernaut remains unchanged other than damage and area buffs to his unyielding passive. Other attack-based ascendancies will not be receiving any changes, though the Raider will be seeing some big changes in 3.8. Passive tree changes. We've redesigned the positioning and passive wheel of just about everything melee on the passive tree, as well as some bow and wand clusters. There has been some particular focus on making critical strikes more viable for a larger section of the melee build. There are many rewarding opportunities to specialize in certain mechanics, like area of effect, armor, evasion, impale, blind, and fortify. Accuracy. We made some notable changes to the accuracy calculation, making it much easier to reach higher chances to hit. We've increased the chance to hit cap to 100%, letting you always hit enemies, something previously exclusive to Resolute Technique in a small number of items, mods, and ascendancies. This will provide a goal for attack characters that has a noticeable impact on combat, and will much more have a reasonable method of hitting enemies for attack characters without high dexterity. The character sheet now shows your chance to hit on normal enemies and your chance to hit evasive enemies, so you can measure your hit rating against those foes you're taking on. With the new calculations, you'll need about 3000 accuracy to always hit normal level 83 monsters. We've also improved and normalized the accuracy rating of mods and items, while reducing the amount of increased accuracy from passives and increasing the other offensive benefits. This is because the clusters would have trivialized reaching 3000 accuracy rating. This value is subject to change as we put the finishing touches on the passive tree. As a result of the changes to the accuracy calculations, monsters have a higher chance to hit players as well. This isn't too noticeable against characters fully invested in evasion, but will have a more of a noticeable impact if you have low evasion. There's less free mitigation. You have to work for it now. Dagger and staff base types. The list of dagger and staff base types now includes a number of weapons that inherently can't have any caster mods on them. Previously, creating an attack dagger or a staff was significantly more difficult than other weapons like claws or maces, as preventing caster modifiers was an additional, often expensive step. A staff that can't roll caster modifiers is now called a warshaft, while daggers that can't roll caster mods is called daggers, and the ones that can are called rune daggers. Existing base types are unaffected. We've tried to maintain a diverse set of weapons, keeping base types appropriate to those who were favored for a specific role. There are some that have numerical changes to these weapons further to reinforce this. Oh, this one I'm excited about. Also, for those of you saying he doesn't know, if it's about Elementalist, somebody tweeted a picture to me saying Elementalist is dead, so I know like something happened. And then I said like, thanks for the spoiler, I hadn't read it yet, and he was like, it's not? Okay, sweet. That's the only thing. He still doesn't know? Okay, that's the only thing. Apparently Elementalist is dead. Added damage from weapons and jewels. The damage granted by a high-tier elemental weapon prefix compared poorly with equivalent physical modifiers, making obtaining a great elemental weapon more about attack speed and critical bonuses, rendering the prefix mostly meaningless. We've remedied this by adding an additional tier of local elemental damage for fire, cold, and lightning, increasing the power of existing high tiers and also reducing the weighing of the top 2 tiers, making them obtainable, only slightly less challenging than a weapon of equivalent physical damage. Can I actually do like full Ellie again? Because that would be so pog. On the other end of the scale, Abyssal Jewels were providing far more added damage to attacks than we were happy with, making them a far greater contributor to the damage than your weapon. We've lowered the value of attack damage to about 30% lower than before and made it harder to obtain the highest tier of all the added damage. At the same time, we've lowered the life, mana, and energy shield available from Abyssal Jewels and made the highest tier harder to obtain, as again they provided an unreasonable level of survivability for a single jewel slot. We've changed weapon-specific modifiers on non-Abyssal Jewels to provide a general damage increase rather than specifically affecting physical damage. So they're now a good alternative to Abyssal Jewels for elemental damage. Oh, awesome. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, honestly, if I was gonna redo Abyssal Jewels, I would just keep them around the same power level, but have them only in Abyssal gear. That's like, I don't know, I think that's nice. But this works too, it's not bad. General combat changes. Animation cancelling. You can now cancel your own skills within the first 20% of the attack or cast time, or after the effects of the skill have been unleashed. This will leave you better able to respond to enemy threats and allow you to be more mobile between attacks without losing potential damage. Cancelling an action in the first 20% will let you then immediately perform another skill. Though there is a delay before you can cancel a skill again, you can't interrupt a skill with the same skill. Cancelling after the event action won't let you perform any actions until the first one would have completed other than moving. This lets you move in short bursts between acts, attacks are cast. Interesting. I love the cancelling. I think that'll feel great. Maybe not in the start. Enemy combat. There have been a large number of changes to enemies through Act 1 and some changes in Act 2. The goal of these changes is to bring their combat to the level of modern monster design, with more opportunities for counterplays to enemy abilities that are also more dangerous. Some monsters use the new melee system, so the area their attacks hit will match the animations they use, making combat feel more connected and letting you respond to attacks. I mean, I'm hoping Dark Souls here. Just Dark Souls. Give me Pee-wee Dark Souls. Skill changes. Travel skills. A number of skills are now classified as travel skills. These are movement skills that usually move you significantly faster than you could usually move. We're going to be using this distinction on a number of skills of mechanics to both benefit and restrict their use without affecting high damage movement skills. Maybe Flame Dash will be unironically really good for like killing things now. And I think this is specifically targeted at not making Consecrated Path and the one that like leaves the trail. I can't remember what it's called. But that makes sense. Dash? Something dash? Defensive skills. We made changes to Molten Shell. Charge Dash, that's it. We made changes to Molten Shell and Immortal Call, connecting them with the new Iron Skin skill. You can read about the changes in the article here. The overall goal is to make defensive abilities reward careful use. Through the option of automating them with trigger supports is still available. I like this. I think it'll be great. Changes to powerful skills. We've decided that Winter Orb, Storm Rend, Bane, and Soul Rend were too powerful for clearing, though through content without heavy investment, so the damage and other aspects have been reduced in power. Warlord's Mark now only applies its leech bonus to attacks. The curse easily solved mana problems for casters with minimal investment, and after deliberation, we've changed solving mana problems for spellcasters should require more thought and a greater opportunity cost. Herald of Agony has had its minion damage per virulence reduced, as the skill provided a huge amount of power for very little investment. Let's hope they don't know about Leech on Boots. Have you heard about my friend Leech on Boots? I actually like the Warlord's Mark change. as long as they leave in leech on boots. I don't know why they're so hellbent on making it really hard to gain mana for spellcasters. I mean, I never really liked using Warlord's Mark as a way to learn mana, gain mana anyway. Actually, you know what? The main thing that is frustrating about this is it was nice as an option because doing Herald of Thunder Curse on hit Warlord's Mark was really nice until I farmed Crow Leech on boots, which can take a while. So, I mean, it just means we're gonna need to invest into mana. It's not the end of the world. With like a low level clarity and Vol clarity, it can feel pretty nice. The Winter Orb stuff, I'm really, really worried that they're not gonna nerf it well enough. I showed yesterday why I'm scared of Winter Orb, because if what they do, and this is what I think they're gonna do, does anyone have do you see the problem clip? Madaki or a man with hat maybe? That what I'm worried about is that they're going to yeah, here. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys. A lot of the recent, okay, so the way they've talked about nerfing Winter Orb by frequency, and I'm very scared about this because while Winter Orb and Blade Vortex are very unique in the way that they're too strong just because of face run, the way the skill works is that you can run with face run, right? That's very scary. No, I'm not going Righteous Fire. So very, very scared of that. And the reason is Herald of Ice and Fizz Explosions. Obviously, we don't have Fizz Explosions right now. But I just want to, before I read on, I'm a little worried about this. Hopefully they nerf it. So here, this cleans like 2.5 screens. So obviously you see that it's just the first Herald of Ice projectile that hits. So even if they nerf the frequency to hitting once every 6 seconds, I'm only hitting it once. And if they're nerfing the frequency a lot, they're more than likely going to up the damage. So hopefully later in this video, they've done something with Herald of Ice. And Herald of Agony obviously needed. It's insane. It's the most busted thing in the game right now is Herald of Agony. Passive tree changes. Powerful Ascendancy classes. Certain notables on some Ascendancy classes that provided too much damage potential or defense have been changed. The Occultist now has a single energy shield base notable, with a condensed and limited version of the previous energy shield notable. The ability for energy shield to be an uninterrupted if recovery has started recently has moved to a new keystone found near the witch, making the mechanic available to a broader... So, isn't Trickster just going to be what the fuck OP now? Making the mechanic available to a broader selection of characters, though with a new downside. Interesting. Trickster's Ghost Down charge is now generated at a slower rate and provide a reduced value of attack and cast speed. The charges were rarely depleted on a reasonable character in normal gameplay, providing a massive boost, massive defensive power that was far too reliable. Nice. I love these changes actually. I really want to go back to my Cyclone roots. So, the Elementalist, and this is what the Elementalist dead, I guess, reversed here. The Elementalist Beacon of Ruin notable has been changed, no longer granting proliferation of elements and with a lower value of minimum shock. The shock benefit provided too much power in combination with increased shock effects. You didn't even need shock effects. While the proliferation had significant effects on performance, regardless of whether it was being taken full advantage of. We'll be replacing or changing this and other sources of proliferation in the future. But is that necessarily that bad? Because if you get enough damage, you can use the elemental prolif gem. So depending on what they give, it might be okay. Because when I was experimenting with Hierophant, if I can get enough damage somewhere else, you can literally use prolif support. So, yeah, but it's not free? No, I mean, that is definitely part of the problem. But yeah, I'm wondering what they're going to do with Elementalist now, because the Elementalist might be dead now. So, we'll see what happens with Herald of Ice. If a lot of people said wait about talking with Herald of Ice until you read more. If this was what you guys were talking about, this doesn't stop Herald of Ice. Because the example is an assassin without prolif. So I'm hoping there's something specific about Herald of Ice, or it's very much going to be a problem. Because this was not an elementalist. This was an assassin. There's more. Okay, good. Blood Magic and Mortal Conviction. We've completely changed Mortal Conviction, the notable behind Blood Magic. It's now a keystone that restricts you to only one non-banner aura seal, but removes the restoration cost. Well, that's super pog. But I get one for free with no investment? But rip aura bots? That's fine. I don't like running aura bots anyway. Rex Blood Magic support? Yes. It does Rex Blood Magic support. But that's fine. That's kind of busted anyway. I don't think it'll work with Essence Worm though. And I can support it with shit. It's just remove or survive. That's kind of really cool. I really like that. That's kind of... Ooh, I'm gonna go Blood Magic for SSF. That's really nice. Like SSF, Gladiator, Cyclone, Blood Magic? Ooh. Yeah, it wouldn't work with Essence Worm. That's nice. I like that. The amount of Herald and other special will need to be paid for in full with life. This will let you take Blood Magic and an aura without compromising available life, at the cost of limited options being available to you. That's actually so cool and good. That is just really nice change. This means that I can do, for example, I can do anger or I can do hatred, but I can't do multiple auras. That's really cool. I like that a lot. It just means you can only have one aura activated. I can use War Banner on my life though. We'll see what we'll end up using, but that's really cool. This will mean that builds that use Blood Magic and Mortal Conviction to restore a very large number of auras while being protected by Energy Shield will be restricted to one aura. We may return this mechanic in the future on a more specialized source than the passive tree. Okay, so gear. Who says that Essence Worm won't work? The text? Reading? Reading says that Essence Worm won't. It literally gives your character aura max 1 by the wording here. So if you have 2 Essence Worm with 2 auras, you can only activate 1 aura ever, is what it says basically. Yeah, you can still have Heralds and you can still have War Banners. Do you think Herald of Agni needed a nerf? Herald of Agni is the most busted thing in the game right now. It's just not very popularly used. If you've seen Ember playing it, you can see why it needed a nerf. Nodes behind keystones removed. We've added the powerful passive clusters behind... removed the powerful passive clusters behind many keystones. These passives were being used to add power to keystones in a way that worked well on the passive tree, but unique items were unable to receive the same power without characters being able to double up by taking both the unique and the keystone. Is Face Echo removed? Further balance addition to these keystones will come in the form of abilities on the keystone itself rather than additional modifiers. Yeah, and Mind Over Matter and stuff. Interesting. Okay. Energy Shield on the passive tree. Yeah, I was saying that wouldn't work, Fosh. Energy Shield on the passive tree. We made a number of changes to bonuses to Energy Shield on the passive tree. The value of increases to Energy Shield on various passive clusters have been lowered with some flat Energy Shield available early in the passive tree. That sounds pretty interesting. This will let Energy Shield have some extra defensive benefits at early levels while reducing the potential Energy Shield that a fully invested late game character can achieve. There is a new Energy Shield cluster between Templar and Witch, a location that was missing Energy Shield options when pathing between characters. Now, I'm always worried about shit like this because in Synthesis, we obviously had implicits on every piece of gear. And if they've thought of like... I hope they've like completely ignored the implicits. Because, see, I came back in such a strong way last league because of a combination of dense fossils and the implicits. Indirect changes to Unnatural Instinct from passive skill tree changes. The critical multiplier passives near the silent starting area provided far too much power through the Unnatural Instinct jewel. They have been changed to accuracy passives instead. F. Goodbye, Unnatural Instinct. Want to sell Unnatural Instinct, 12C. Is there anywhere else you can use it? Ah. Use it for movement speed, I guess. Defenses from equipment. The inclusion of the dense fossil with delve and the item quality crafted modifiers with betrayal significantly increased the potential energy shield available on many items slot with minimal investment. I don't know about that. The value granted were too great, so we made changes to both dense fossils and crafted quality modifiers. You can no longer craft any local item modifier on boots, gloves, and helms, and you will still be able to craft them on body armor and shields. Dense fossils no longer include local armor, evasion, or energy shield suffixes. Instead, the fossils will have local item quality as a potential suffix on body armor and shields, with a slightly higher potential value than the craftable modifiers. Other item slots will have new modifiers appropriate to their defense. Why do they never do like moderate nerfs? They like never... They never... Why does this keep happening? This is so Papega. I mean, this is good because I want to play life melee builds, but it's just... Can't they just like... one or two of these changes? It's so weird. Like, okay, CI last thing was busted, but that was because of implicits. You know, now lowering the gear and lowering the nodes, that's so weird. That's so weird. I mean, this is nice for me, but like it's weird. It's nice to have like the option. I was gonna play life builds for like the first month anyway, but it's so weird. Like, just make it like, you know, ES is good for this shit, life is good for this shit. Not okay, well, you can't go ES anymore. We've gone full circle. Yeah, this keeps happening. They never seem to understand how to like moderately balance energy shield. Like, it's either completely fucking busted with everybody running 20k ES builds, or fucking completely useless with like 3 people running ES builds. Like, I don't feel like there's been an in-between for the last 2 years, has there? I don't feel like there's been anything in between. It's just very like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's wild. Yeah, it is wild. This is a hyperbole stream. People told me that last time. It's like, oh, Ziz, you're exaggerating. But I wasn't. I was completely correct. To the nail. So no. I was completely right the 2 last times. Right. Powerful unique items. Certain very powerful unique items will be harder to obtain now. This includes Headhunter, Eternity Shroud, and Solstice Vigil. Nice. Are they not nerfing them though? Changes not making it into 3.7. 3.7 will not include enchantments for the new seals. We're planning to release them shortly after, like 3 months, once we've had time to develop interesting and worthwhile enchantments that improve on their most interesting aspects. There has been an ongoing discussion about the enchantment system, but we've yet come to a conclusion on how obtaining helmet enchants may change as a result of a new enchantment making specific enchantments harder to obtain. Dude, I have like the coolest... If I was in charge of making enchantments, do different levels, maybe it's just too complicated, but have maybe like, you can, if you do Uberlab, you can choose your enchant. Say your arc, you can choose an arc damage enchant if you want that. So if you're playing SSF, you literally choose your own enchant, but that's a lot less powerful because you're choosing it. Then you can have the randomized one can be like the super powerful ones. Right? You could choose your own, but that's a lower power. You can't get like +2 tornado shot. You can't get like the best enchant with that. They're random. But you can choose something for your own, but it's worse. Right? That's a fair compromise. And then maybe another option could be like slightly lower power, but give you multiple choices. Like 3 choice or something. Plus half an arrow. Because I feel like some of the enchants, the most powerful ones, they should be rare. Like, you shouldn't be able to just run into lab and slap on like, oh, +2 Molten Strike, let's go. Because then you're always going to do that. You're always only going to use the best ones. Yeah, the unveil window is a good idea too. Yeah, exactly. Cut the enchant in half if you choose it. Something like that. Right, leech. We hope to simplify and rework the leech system for 3.7. The more we developed our new system, the more we realized it was such an extreme change that it would disorient too many players and potentially require more balance and iteration than we were comfortable with it in the time available. We've decided to make the change alongside 4.0 as part of other more significant and sweeping balance changes. We hope this will let us do the system justice by making the system better and fit the game progression with a much more reward for investment. A significant shift from the way Leech currently plays in the game. Interesting. Didn't they just rework Leech? Are they doing it again? This is going to be gimpy for 3 months. Bleeding. Cut enchant in half like 0.5 and tornado. No, I didn't mean like that you could choose those. Maybe the ones you choose is just generic damage. Like 40% tornado shot enchant. That's still really good. If you want the rare ones, gotta fucking grind for it. Bleeding and other attack elements. Though there are many changes that affect bleeding, elements with attacks don't have a natural growth in power during progression that we're happy with, and we don't provide enough interesting interactions. We plan to make more significant changes to damage ailments, especially with attacks in the future. There's nothing on Herald of Ice here. At all. That is like one of the bigger problems right now. People kept saying he doesn't know. Keep reading. There's more about Herald of Ice. Herald of Ice is the biggest problem. Like, there is nothing Melee has that compares to this. And this is not Elementalist. This is nothing to do with Elementalist. There's nothing Melee has that can do this. No ED contagion change either. See, I'm not that against that. What's wrong with Herald of Ice? You tell me what's wrong with Herald of Ice. Cleared from up here. All the way up here. And it cleared all the way to there. Glacial Hammer with Herald of Ice. It deleted like nearly 3 screens. There's like, how is Melee gonna compare against this? Why is Herald of Ice a problem? I don't understand if people are joking when they're saying, why is Herald of Ice a problem? Is that only Herald of Ice? No physics explosion? Yeah, this is just Herald of Ice. How do you fix it? Don't let... Just put Herald of Ice in line with other explosions. Like, the bleed explosion from Gladiator can't prolif. The same with like the fire explosion. That doesn't prolif off itself either. The Shaper Mace. You can make the bleed explosions from Hemophilia and Gladiator prolif off itself. Then Melee can do this too. But right now, this is like the biggest difference. Winter Orb is the problem, not Herald of Ice. But that's a retarded thing to say because I proved yesterday that you can do this with Freezing Pulse. You can do this with Storm Run. You can do this with anything. It doesn't matter about Winter Orb. And if they reduce how often Winter Orb fires, it's still going to be exactly the same problem. You can do this with anything. And It doesn't matter. You can do it with melee? No, because melee can't scale it as well. That's not just Hoi. You scaled your Hoi with Assassin. Yeah, but you can do that with loads. You can do Prolif. You can just put in Elemental Prolif and scale it. Yay, after reading a Nerf Manifesto, Sis still wants GGD to nerf further? That's not what I'm saying. They've just nerfed sort of the wrong things. Like, there are still... The reason why Winter Orb is still a problem, and I showed Winter Orb yesterday. I showed Winter Orb yesterday with without Herald of Ice, and I can clear faster or similar to that with melee. Okay, obviously not faster, but that's mostly because of face run. So the biggest problem with Winter Orb and Blade Vortex is that I can channel 10 stacks and then run. Right? How are you scaling the Hoi here? Just crit. Can you scale it with melee Crown of Ice? You can't. Spell damage doesn't do anything for Herald of Ice. There. Even if Orb does get fucking dumpstered, BV is still there. It's so Stormman. And I can do this with Freezing Pulse too. What do they do to Auras again? That's just for blood magic. Like, this is a fun thing in the game. This is fun. I really enjoy playing like this. But this puts a huge discrepancy on melee versus builds that can do this. Right? At least they nerfed War bossing a bit. Yeah, but I don't feel like that was the big problem. And I really want to play melee next week. I really want to announce on Thursday on the podcast I'm doing with Noogie and Ziggy, like, guys, we're not playing Stormman, we're not playing Blade Vortex, we are playing a Gladiator Cyclone. We're starting off with Sunder, then we're maybe going Consecrated Path, and then Cyclone. That's what I want to announce. I want to do that. I would love that. I used to only play melee for the first year. I remember all my early viewers watching me as I tried my first spell build, and I used to have my movement ability on Q, and it was so hard for me to use 5 flasks as CI Spark. Right? It was so hard because I'd never done it. But I'm obviously not going to do that if I can destroy a fucking 3 screens with Herald of Ice. I thought Method was all doing SSF on their own. Yes, we are. Did I say anything to indicate otherwise? Explain this people why this not works the same way with melee. Sure. So the Gladiator Prolif is only against bleeding targets, and the explosion itself doesn't cause bleed. How do you accomplish? This is just crit Herald of Ice. You can also use the Prolif gem. It Prolif off itself. And there's no way to make that happen with either the bleed gloves or the Gladiator explosion. So the fire one also does the same thing. I'll try to show in paint. And this is the same way with the bleed one. So say these are monsters, right? All these circles are monsters. Now, if I'm using Herald of Ice, or actually I'll demonstrate the fire explosion. If I use, I kill this monster, right? And this makes a fire explosion that's like this big, right? It'll kill this, it'll kill this, it'll kill this, and it'll kill this. And if it's touching those, it'll kill those too, right? That's the fire explosion. And then I'll continue. However, Herald of Ice does this. I kill this. It makes a circle here. This one makes a circle here. This one makes a circle here. Everything it hits, basically. And they're also chaining, right? That's the big issue. Whereas with both the Gladiator Blade one, all you're getting is I'm killing this, and everything inside this will die. It will not make more explosions and continue chaining. And this happens on both the fire shaper thing. That one's fine. it's a lot of damage and it's good scaling, but you know, there's downsides and stuff. So that one's fine. We know this since PoE exists, mate. Then why the fuck were people asking me to explain it? Jesus fuck, just because you know doesn't... Fuck. Hate people like that. It's like, I know what this means. It's like, yeah, great, you're fucking smart. Get over yourself. Fucking hell. Idiot. Right. So that's like the big difference. That is like the big difference between the two of them. Now, since melee doesn't really have a good option for scaling your Herald of Ice, right? You're gonna have a hard time scaling Herald of Ice. If you're melee assassin, yeah, same with Profane Bloom. Profane Bloom doesn't change off itself, I think, or does it? Profane Bloom might. Those are harder to scale, but Profane Bloom is actually very strong too. I can't remember how Profane Bloom works. Ah, yeah, if you have Curse on hit. Requires the target to be cursed. Yeah, so... Oh, thank you, Roman. I love you. So Profane Bloom is sort of part of the same problem. Now, I think the biggest problem with explosions is there's such a big discrepancy when some of them can chain and some can't. That is like the biggest problem. So if I'm a assassin melee character, then I could technically scale this. But that's sort of the only thing. Other than that, like for example, another thing that's, I'll show you in game. Another reason why it's so easy to scale the elemental one is you're normally doing elemental skills up here. And if I want to scale my Herald of Ice, all I need to do is I take elemental overload. Now I have 40% more damage to my Herald of Ice or my fire explosion. That's actually a really big deal for the fire explosion too. And why the fire explosion is probably a little too powerful. Because the way the fire explosion works is, say a monster has 10,000 life, right? Then 5% of that damage gets taken into the explosion. However, that explosion is scaled by all my elemental damage, and then that is multiplied by the 40% more. So it's all my elemental damage increases is scaling it, and then that gets multiplied by 40% more. And that's insane. And it's very easy to scale with spiritual aid as well. So there's a lot of generic increases that can scale the the Herald of Ice and the other explosions. However, if I want to have Gladiator, right? I have either Hemophilia, which is a physics explosion, or I have... I forgot to disable on the screen. Thank you. I appreciate it. If I have Hemophilia or the Gladiator explosion, then there's not many good ways of scaling that, because I would need either generic physical damage, which there isn't much of. As you see, it's all with swords, with two-handed. Like, I think there's one... Where's Force Shaper? Master of Force. Here. This one. 20% increased physical damage. 20% increased physical damage. It's like some up here, but other than that, there's very little to actually scale that explosion-wise. And yeah, you can convert it. We got one with cold. Yeah, that doesn't help. That's not what I'm talking about. You can convert it and scale it like that, but as you see, it's a lot more investment. Since there's other classes, not only Gladiator, calm down, it's not Gladiator League. There's so many people here completely missing the point that it's like they're on like a whole new level. They're like working for like the media or some shit of like misdirection. It's like complete whole new levels of dumb comments. What the fuck did that have to do with anything? Holy hell. Christ. Anyway, that's like the main problems. That is some of the male problems. So hopefully they do something with Herald of Ice, because as we proved with multiple skills, Herald of Ice is a big problem. Whereas like obviously Winter Orb running along clearing isn't that insane. But we'll see. We'll see how it happens. But that's sort of like my main comments on the new Manifesto